Hey everyone, and welcome to 1.21 Overload. I am Peter, and that over there is Matt.
Excellent.
We talk about movies on this show. This is our monthly movie show. This is, well, it's supposed to be monthly. This one's actually late. This is the May episode of 121 Overload, because Matt was sick. Well, I mean,
Yeah.
don't get me wrong, that is a valid... It's not Matt's fault that he got strep throat in the last week, because we watched the movie last week. We were supposed to record right at the end of the May. I'm still going to blame Matt a little bit, though. Because at the start of May I said, hey, we've got like 2 weeks without any new movies to watch, why don't we just do Bill and Ted then? And he said, yeah, alright. And then it was like, oh wait, it's the 30th of May, Matt. Do you want to record?
Yeah. Sure. And then strep throat and I can't talk.
Yes. So the last week of delays, no one's fault really. He was just sick. But here we are. So there's another one coming later this month. Coherence, which won the vote, because obviously our patrons vote on this. Matt picks a movie he loves, I pick a movie I love, and our patrons vote for what one we're going to do for the month. Coherence won for the month of June, so that's the one that's coming up later this month. And then the vote that's up right now for the next month that our patrons can go vote on, Matt picked Say Anything, the classic rom-com.
Yeah.
Because I've never seen that.
Cameron Crowe, John Cusack, everyone knows, he put the boombox over your head.
Yeah, even I know that scene.
In your eyes. Yeah. Exactly. But you don't know the context of said scene. So
he's trying to win her back?
Yeah, we'll see.
I'm pretty sure that's right. My pick for the next vote is Bubba Hotep, which, by the way, is... like
This is an opposite of a Alien vs. Predator. No matter who wins, we lose. This is whoever wins, we win. So,
honestly, I think I am being much kinder to you in this case. I think you will love Bubba Hotep.
I think you'll Say Anything. That's why I put it up there.
Not as much as I love Bubba Hotep, though. I want to watch Bubba Hotep again. So,
well, just like, what'd you put up against Bill and Ted?
I can't remember.
Yeah, okay.
This was like 2 months ago now, this vote, Matt. I can't remember.
Yeah, I'm just saying. I love Bill and Ted that much. So, when that won, I was super stoked. But I want to say was it The Burbs? Because either way, it would have been okay.
Yeah, The Burbs was one of those. It was either that or the month before was The Burbs was my pick. I don't know. Once the vote's been won, I forget what the options were, Matt. I just remember what won.
I tend to never forget. But again, sick for the last week. I'm just finally coming back into being okay. So... as we said multiple times there, Bill and Ted, specifically Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, won the vote for May. So that's what we're doing here today. I had never seen this before. I'd never seen either of them before. So this was a first time watch for me. Obviously this is the classic... I use that, classic may be a bit strong. No, it's classic. It's a cultural touchstone.
It's the 1989 time travel metal comedy starring Keanu Reeves and Alex Winter. I had to check Alex Winter's name because he's not as famous as Keanu Reeves. Keanu Reeves has got a whole career after this.
Yes. Alex Winter, he had a smaller career. He mostly directs documentaries now.
Oh, interesting.
He's done one that I've had saved on Hulu forever called Deep Web, which is about the dark web. He did that. He's done a couple others. So he's made that transition to behind the camera, whereas Keanu's become like a global name, thanks to The Matrix.
I knew Keanu first from Speed, and then he sort of became an even bigger thing with Matrix. Now he's obviously since then he's been, whatever.
Yeah. He's John Wick now. He's.
It's funny. It's funny to me that in the last few years, all of a sudden, most people think of him as John Wick first. I'll always think of him as Speed and The Matrix first because that's just where I knew him from growing up. But it's funny now that a whole new generation's like, no, that's John Wick. He's John Wick first.
Yeah, he's Ted Theodore Logan to me, because I grew up with Bill and Ted, and then I was like, what's Ted doing in The Matrix? This is weird. So, but yeah, no, I like Keanu a lot. He always ends up putting in a good performance, and this is like proto Keanu. So. He's become a much more complex actor than these humble beginnings.
It's funny, I remember there was a time in the 2000s, I remember it was very hip in the internet to make fun of Keanu for being wooden.
Yeah.
And because I don't think he's the best actor in the world, but he's a very likeable actor. I mean, for everything I've heard, he's a very nice person. Apparently he's a really nice guy, if you get to know him. He's apparently a very charming guy. But I mean, he's got enough charisma that there's tons of movies that he's in that I like. And he probably works better when he's not speaking too much. John Wick's a very quiet and straight to the point character.
Yeah, because
that kind of works.
He's going and he's shooting people in the face. there's very little dialogue in those movies.
Yeah. So,
But yeah,
so we're going to talk about Dude, Where's My Guitar? I mean, sorry, that was a slip.
dude, where's my phone booth?
Oh, maybe that's more accurate. But
Yeah,
guitar rhymes with car. That was what I was going for there. You see.
I got you. I got you.
So there was a method to my madness. So we're going to talk about Bill and Ted, Excellent Adventure. We'll warn you somewhere in the middle before we go into spoilers, but we'll start off spoiler free. So time travel comedy. It is Bill and Ted. At 700 years in the future, society will have formed around their future music from their band, but they almost flunked history, which was going to split them up because Ted was going to be sent off to a military school in Alaska.
Yep.
So Rufus, this guy from the future, comes back to present day in his phone booth time travel machine and gives it to them so they can go through history, so they can meet, historical figures, so they can ace their oral history exam the next day. Which, I'm going to critique the movie's logic here a little bit. The teacher to them says that they have flunked every part of this class, but if they get an A plus in this one last test, that's then passed. Like, no, that's not how it works. That's not how education works.
You don't get Fs and then an A on the test and get a D. You still get an F. But it builds the argument that they're slackers, but even though they're slackers, they're destined to do great things. And so this is the crucial moment. And Rufus is played by George Carlin, which this is my introduction to Carlin. So later in life, when I saw him doing his comedy bits about like the 7 dirty words you can't say and whatnot, it blew my mind because I was like, no, that's Rufus. But like to my dad, who showed me this movie originally, is like, oh no, this is like comedy legend George Carlin. But yeah, so what drew me to this movie as a kid is like everyone has their Back to the Future moment, except for Connor because that idiot's never seen Back to the Future.
As he likes to remind us, he watched it for the first time like 3 years ago and thought it was just okay.
Which to me, he's never seen it then. But this was the first movie that made me realize like I really love time travel. So like time travel movies, if there's any kind of plot device of time travel, I'm probably gonna go see it. Like I'm gonna make a venture to the theater, and I've been burned way more times than I've seen something good that comes out of it. But yeah, Bill and Ted is that standard bearer for me because I mean, Back to the Future's time travel, but I feel it's a different. Like Marty goes to 1955, and that's where the kind of whole movie is. Here they're jumping around. There's a little bit more fun with that time travel aspect.
So I suppose I should probably say, I mean, obviously you liked it. You picked it. You put it in the vote. I suppose the big question coming out of this review is if I liked it. It's okay.
Yeah, I didn't expect you to be like head over heels for it. I feel like this is a movie that if you watch when you're young, it's just the nostalgia.
I have to admit,
over.
I feel like, yes, if I'd watched this as a kid, I might be a bit more fond of it. I do think that separates it from Back to the Future in a big way, because I think Back to the Future, despite Connor's weird reaction to it, I don't think Back to the Future is dependent on childhood nostalgia. Back to the Future is a genuinely fantastic film. Yeah. This is just kind of it's a comedy about two metalheads from 1989. Yeah. Honestly, the voices they put on throughout this, and I jokingly compared it to Dude, Where's My Car, but the Dude, Where's My Car was kind of a weird kind of knockoff of this.
Yeah.
Some of that is there. Like I feel like sometimes when they would just the way they would speak would just kind of annoy me. Like the characters. I don't like that much. Bill and Ted are probably the least likable parts of this movie. Is what I'm saying.
Man, I disagree there. But then again, am I just because I grew up with them? They're like my weird friends I've just always had. And then you introduce your new friends, they're like, "What's your friend's deal?" It's like, no, they're just them. The slang and whatnot. It's so 80s. Like words like non-heinous and trying to think of some of the other. Bogus. That might be more the second one, but it's just ingrained in me. So I don't get annoyed by it. I guess I'm trying to say.
I mean, I wasn't super. I was like, I wasn't like sitting there angry, like, oh god, these guys are. It's not like when whenever I've tried to watch a Kevin Smith movie and I just like want to kill all the characters. It's just sort of a light kind of like, okay, I don't really think the way they speak's that funny, so I'm not like.
Gotcha.
I'm not as into it from that perspective. Like the once the time travel stuff kicked in a little bit more, and like some of the jokes with the historical figures were a little bit more funny to me because it was playing on who they were and like how like Napoleon at a water park called Waterloo.
Waterloo, yeah.
And then he wants to change the Waterloo to Waterslide because he's heard that instead and he thinks that sounds quite good. Like jokes like that were working for me a little bit more because I was like, okay, right, I see what the wittiness of this is.
Yeah. It is I don't want to say it's a clever script, but it is a very witty script because of what it does with the historical figures, like with Billy the Kid and Socrates. Like you have these two characters that normally you would never see in a movie next to each other, with Sigmund Freud, and they're all playing off of each other.
Yeah, it took me a second because they call Socrates Socrates at first. I'm like, Socrates?
Socrates.
Oh, I'm like, Socrates. All right, okay. Is that what they're doing? They're idiots. They can't pronounce it. I get it. Okay.
Exactly. But yeah, I think there is a lot of stuff like watching it again. Like this is a movie I watch this probably multiple times a year, but I pick up on things that as I've gotten older, things stick out more. So like there's certain scenes like the Circle K when the line delivery from Keanu where he's like, say hello to the princesses for me, because it's future Bill and Ted coming back to past Bill and Ted to let them know to trust Rufus. Like it's time travel shenanigans. And he goes, what princesses? And he's like, you'll see. And it's just like this weird line that I was like, yeah, a like established director I don't think would have let that by. Just because it's so over the top and goofy. And he does this little like snake maneuver. And I noticed it on this watch that it's never really hit on me before.
Yeah, also it's of its time. There's a random casual homophobic slur at one point between the two of them, and I'm like, oh jeez, that's aged it a lot right there. Like,
big time.
You'll get to do that now.
Nope.
Or should you, for that matter, right? Because it took me out of it. I went, whoa, what did he just say? Because it's just a casual insult between them. I'm like, no, wait, no. And what's funny is like 10 minutes later, they're in the future preaching, be excellent to each other. I'm like, okay, it doesn't jive with the homophobic slur like 10 minutes ago, but yeah, whatever.
Yeah, they're also 17-year-old idiots that are failing history.
Oh, they're very much idiots, yes. So, interesting fact, actually. So, there's a song that plays, there's a scene where they end up in the future, and we're not in spoilers yet, so I won't say too much, but they end up in the future, and there's a song that plays called In Time by Robbie Robb, which I know because it was on Mr. Robot last season. And
for reals?
Mm-hmm.
God damn it.
And
first it was Alf, now it's Bill and Ted. It's going to make me watch more of Mr. Robot.
You should be watching Mr. Robot anyway, Matt. Mr. Robot's fantastic.
Yeah, but... Well, that's a conversation for offline.
So, but now, one of the main themes of Mr. Robot is actually time travel. It's not a show about time travel, but it has themes of time travel. Because Elliot's favourite movie is Back to the Future 2, right? So there's constant themes about can we change the past, can we change things? There's a lot of that going on. And there was a lot of, especially in Season 3, there was a lot of time travel kind of like thematic devices, like can we erase mistakes we've had and things like that. And Angela, a character, kind of comes to believe this, so to a point where it's bad for her health, right? And there's a scene where Elliot goes and tries to like sort of, hey, remember when we were kids, like, how would, like, when something bad would happen, what would we say to each other? And she says that everything would be okay. And that's when the song kicks in the show. And the episode it's a fantastic episode. I don't want to get too much into it. I don't want to spoil anything in the show, but
yeah, don't.
Elliot's in a place that's really dark in this episode, and this is kind of the uplifting kind of ending to it, right? And it's such a perfect thing, but because the show has themes of time travel, and there's multiple times in the show when songs from Back to the Future have played. The song works on its own anyway, but when someone told me it's from Bill and Ted, I'm like, oh, it's another time travel movie. That was intentional. Yeah. That was an intentional pull from that.
It's a solid song, too. Like, it's big, soaring riffs. Yeah.
But the reason why I bring that up is the second it started playing in this, all I could think was Mr. Robot.
The Robot, yeah.
Because it's a fantastic
Two completely
scene.
Different tones.
It's a scene in Mr. Robot that has the song from Bill and Ted, but the filming of the scene reminds me of Paris, Texas, one of my favourite films. So, It was a concoction of emotions.
I'm gonna say Sam Esmail is just a wizard.
Oh, he is. He's so.
That's it. That's the only explanation I can come up with.
Awesome.
Or maybe he's like Rufus and he comes from the future and he just knows, like he has to make this TV show to make the world better. You know.
He's trying. He's trying his damnedest. The show hits on a lot of points.
But yeah, it's. I'm done. Not too much else I can say about it. That's before the spoiler section, because a lot of what I want to talk about is plot.
It's plot, yeah. I think generally speaking, it's a lighthearted comedy. I can see why people who grew up with it, like have fond memories of it. Honestly though, like watching it as an adult now in 2018, when I have no attachment to it, it's just kind of like, yeah, this is fine, but it's forgettable. Like it's not like.
I can't fault you for that one. This is one of my coping movies. Like. When I'm in a down and out mood, I'll put in Bill and Ted, and it makes me feel better. I was able to my AP U.S. history class. You finish early because you take the AP test before you take your finals. So we had like an extra month left where we could just watch movies. So I asked my teacher, I was like, "Hey, can I bring in Bill and Ted and we watch it this week?" I was like, "It's about history," and she's like, "Yeah, sure." So like I was able to bring this and show this in class. That's how much it's one of my favorite movies. So, but I can't fault you for being like, yeah, it's good, but it's kind of forgettable because it's like that's most 80s movies. That's why the few that are great stand out because they have to stand high above the others.
I don't know, 80s maybe my favorite decade of movies, so I don't know if I agree with that statement, but
really.
Oh yeah, 80s is fantastic. 80s is.
I mean, yeah, you could find like 3 for each of those years, but like. There's still a lot of like super bad stuff.
Yeah, there's always super bad stuff. I mean, just look at let's pick a year. 84, right? 1984.
Huh?
Terminator, Nightmare on Elm Street, Paris, Texas. What else was 84? There was more. Look, hold on, I'm getting my list up. Right.
Temple of Doom.
Was that 84? There you go.
Yeah.
That's not as great as the others I mentioned, but yeah, sure.
It's up there. Thanks.
Come on now. It's good, but it's not as good as 1 and 3, right? It's not as good as 1 and 3. I put it up there
with Last Crusade. I like them about equally. Although, the older I get, the more I see my relationship with my father as Indy and his dad. Especially that scene where they strap to the chair in the fire yelling at each other.
Ghostbusters, 84. Body Double, Gremlins. Starman, Never-Ending Story, Beverly Hills Cop, The Karate Kid. Yes, go away, Ashley.
No, go.
I said go away.
No, Bill and Ted. You don't want to start with No, it's fine. I'll show you. Most on heinous.
Yeah, did you just hear half the movies I just read out?
I heard Gremlins and I heard Ghostbusters.
Beverly Hills Cop, Karate Kid, Never-Ending Story, Gremlins, Body Double.
I'm not big on half of those. I love Beverly Hills Cop, Gremlins.
Oh, come on, 84. All right, 85. Back to the Future, Goonies, Explorers, Commando, Breakfast Club.
You have this unnatural. I feel like my Bill and Ted is your Commando. Because like Commando's fine, but I didn't grow up watching Commando, and I'm just kind of like, okay, I understand why people like this, but it's not hitting with me.
Oh, that's a fair comparison. But I love Commando.
Right. So, all right, I will concede your point about the 80s. But I'm also thinking about all the late 80s action crap that came out that was just, stuff that started Don the Dragon Wilson.
You just weren't watching the right movies, Matt. That's all I've got to say to that.
Probably.
That's all I've got to say to that. Alright, we'll give the spoiler warning. Full spoilers for Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure. From here on out, you've been warned. So, Bill and Ted, they end up, Napoleon ends, because the first kind of example, just to prove that time travel exists, he takes them back to, Napoleon times, and Napoleon ends up getting dragged in sort of by accident, and they don't want to take him back because they're back in present day before they go back to get everyone else. There's a subplot where Ted's dad wants to send him to military school, so he's kind of like diving and like hiding from his dad, but they have to, Bill's little brother is left to look after Napoleon.
Ted's little brother.
Oh, was it Ted's little brother? Sorry.
Yeah.
Like I say, I watched this a week ago, right? But Ted's little brother is left to look after, and he's like, 12 or whatever he is, right?
Yeah.
So he takes Napoleon. So this is the subplot of the movie, which may be my favourite part of the movie, is the subplot with Napoleon. So he takes him to to ice cream first. They get ice cream, and he doesn't speak any English.
Biggie.
Yeah, and he's eating ice cream, and we see that he likes it so much that he's like, he's like threatening the little girl for the last bite. He's like, no, mine. And then he's at the water park. He's going down the water slide, and he's because of course the water park's called Waterloo, because why wouldn't it be?
Well, so it's set. The movie's set in San Dimas, but they filmed it mostly in Scottsdale, Arizona, which is right outside of Phoenix. It's like a suburb. And in San Dimas, they have this really cool water park called Raging Waters. Like, that's what San Dimas is famous for. It's like that and Bill and Ted. So they kind of the writers wanted to put in this water park because the whole joke with Waterloo. So I think that's cool that they went out and found like even one in Phoenix to fit. And just one of my favorite shots in the whole movie is him in the full like old timey bathing suit and bathing cap running up the stairs past all the kids.
Yeah, get out of the way, you little shits. It's my turn.
Yeah, exactly. It's like this is one of the greatest conquerors of Europe, and he's just acting like a jerk at a water park. It's so great. It
wouldn't surprise me. That seems in line with his character. Just
right?
They didn't have stupid little things to be petty about back then. It was all murder.
Exactly. Yeah.
But there's all else goes bowling. It's the whole thing. They go through time and they collect in the following. I think this is in order actually as well. They get Billy the Kid from the Old West.
Yep.
They get Socrates. All right. They get Sigmund Freud from Germany. Genghis Khan from Mongolia. Joan of Arc, presumably from France.
Yeah.
Abraham Lincoln.
Yeah, from the U.S.
Duh. I didn't think I had to specify that one.
I'm going with the whole...
Yeah, and then Beethoven. So
yeah, which they call Beethoven.
Well, they call Freud Freud.
Freud, didn't it? So, by far, the scene that I always laugh at is where they come back with all the historical figures, and they land the phone booth in Bill's backyard. And there's this running joke the whole time where Bill's dad married a girl that Bill and Ted went to school with named Missy.
Yeah, she was a senior when they were a freshman. She's like 2 or 3 years older. Yeah,
and so every time they go through Bill's house, it's like, oh, hey, Missy, I mean Mom. And so they land in the backyard, and Missy is back there like gardening. And they have to kind of try to explain what's going on, why this phone booth. But she's just mad because Bill hasn't done his chores. So they open the phone booth, and they all come out, and they introduce them with, like, as if they had to cover up the names because a phone booth landing in the backyard isn't weird. So it's like Herman the Kid and Dennis Frood, Socrates Johnson, and I die laughing every single time.
Well, they do that until they get to Lincoln, and then just like, and this is Abraham Lincoln, because they couldn't think of anything.
They can't come up with anything else. Yeah, so, and then they have all the historical figures help them with chores.
Before they lose them all in the mall, and we get a montage of them all running around. Beethoven's got, he's got all the synthesizers, and he's like testing them all out. You've got someone trying to steal Lincoln's hat because he thinks it's from his store, and so on. Genghis Khan's like trying the baseball bats out.
Yeah, he's destroying a sporting goods store.
Yeah,
and Joan of Arc goes and takes over an aerobics class, and it's just like, because the whole point of their oral report is how certain historical figures would react to modern day San Dimas. So the only place that Bill and Ted know, like, hey, how do we experience life, is to take them to the mall. And yeah, so it makes for a fun montage. And once they're there, it gives, them something to do, because Bill and Ted need to go find Napoleon, because Ted's little brother ditched him because he didn't like hanging out around an old French guy.
Yeah. It's funny actually, because the movie, it's almost like there's a sequence in medieval England, and they don't actually get anyone from there. This is where they meet the princesses, and it's basically just a sequence where they're in danger before they end up, because ultimately most of these characters they get in a montage where it just quickly cuts between all the time periods, and then the plot is, okay, they have to go to the mall, and then they all get arrested, so they have to break them out of prison because Ted's dad's the detective. And so there's a whole sort of jailbreak sequence, and that's kind of the plot, and then all of it's just racing to the stage, because for some reason this oral history report is in a big theater somewhere.
Yeah. By the way, San Dimas high school football rules. It's another one.
I was expecting like, this is an oral report traditionally would just be in the front of the class, right?
No, this is No, this is a big. It's at the school theater.
Yeah.
Full, packed.
Yes, the entire school. For some reason, they've brought the entire school and parents to come see this oral report. That's not how this works, but it's all just there. The reason for this, of course, is that when Bill and Ted end up arriving just a little bit too late, is so they can use all the lights. They've got all the stage lights, and it's all this big production.
Yeah.
And then one by one, they have the historical figures come out, and they're like, okay, so what do you think of San Dimas? And, they translate, they interpret what Socrates says, and then the others, they kind of... honestly, one of my favourite little jokes in the movie is probably when they've got all the historical figures at the police station, and the cops are interviewing them. And the one's talking to Freud, and then Freud just sort of turns around and says, why don't you tell me about your mother? I thought it was kind of funny.
Well, then when they ask Abraham Lincoln his name, and he's like, and he starts giving him his actual, and the detectives get mad because they think this guy dressed as Abraham Lincoln is just playing a thing on them. That's pretty great. For the longest time, I thought Abraham Lincoln and the actor that played Ted's dad were the same guy. And it wasn't until now that I looked them up, and they're different guys. They just look an awful lot alike. But as a kid growing up, I thought it was the same dude.
They look kind of similar, actually. I don't know. It's not a ridiculous thing to think.
No.
The small touch that, the running joke about the Missy mum thing, that that they've got the hots for Bill's stepmom. Like, that was near her there. The one part of that I liked, actually, though, was when she comes into... Again, she shows up to watch the oral history report.
Right.
But she sits down next to the teacher and says, oh, hey, long time no see. And he recognises, like, why are you here? You graduated, 2 years ago. What's happening?
Yeah. I just love, also, Ted, like, hey, you remember when I asked her to prom? Shut up, Ted. Just he's getting all upset about it. Like, it's great. And that joke goes through the second one too. I'm not going to spoil it here because that will be brought up for vote in a future date, because people could argue that Bogus Journey is better than Excellent Adventure. I like them both. They're like children. You can't pick a favorite. But it's a much different movie than this one. But yeah, that joke is like the one runner that goes through.
Yeah, they're like children. They're both crippling disappointments.
Oh, no. Not at all. But yeah, so...
I'm joking. I thought it was okay.
I know.
It was fine.
Yeah. But yeah, so, of course, they ace their exam because of this big production number and whatnot. And Rufus shows up at the end and gives them new guitars.
Brings the English princesses.
Brings the princesses because they're part of the band. They're part of Wild Stallions. And they can start to change the world. And it turns out Bill and Ted have zero musical acuity.
Like, they can't play. Yes, they're just bang on the guitars like it's nothing.
Exactly.
Yep.
And Rufus looks at the camera and is like, "Oh, it's a start." So, yeah.
I believe the exact line was, "They do get better." I believe that was the exact line.
Better. Yeah.
Yeah. But, that's a really simple movie. There's not actually... it sounds like there's a lot of plot because we're grabbing all these historical figures, but it's really just, let's collect them all. They get stuck a little bit and they have to fix the machine, but it's really just like a... It's just for a reason to stall them while Napoleon's, having chaos. That's all the reason that plot exists. And then so they accidentally end up in the future at one point. And they're like, oh, be excellent to each other. And we see that this is a utopia founded on the excellence of rock and roll.
Yeah. And that's what I always like to say. We have a friend that anytime stuff starts getting sideways on the internet, he'll just post be excellent to each other. And I feel like out of anything this movie has given the world, it's a constant reminder. It's like, yeah, you can, have differences and whatnot. But at the end of the day, we're all human. And we should try to treat each other excellent.
I feel like you're giving this movie more credit than it is deserving.
No, because I feel like we need more of this right now. I feel like everything's so divided and ugly and mean-spirited. And we need a reminder.
I don't feel like their philosophy in this movie, though, actually... I suppose they say it builds a utopia in the future, based on it. But, I don't feel like they're presented with that and they have to kind of then inspire against. It's just a line in the movie. There's never any, threat of things breaking down. The entire plot is we have to ace our history exam, and that's all it is.
Yeah, but I'm just saying that phrase, the fact that it gets brought up and whatnot, I feel it's something nice to hang on to, out of anything from here. Also, there's a comic book that's set directly after the second one that's pretty fun. And there's a third movie coming down the line called Bill and Ted Face the Music. So
Yeah.
I'm super stoked about all of this.
Nearly 30 years later,
Yeah.
Bill and Ted 3, they're middle-aged men.
And it's not going as planned. Like, they were told they were these messiahs that are going to change the world, and now they're middle-aged, and not much has changed. So what went wrong? That's what I've heard the plot of it is, according to Entertainment Weekly. But we'll see. I will definitely be there day one. Because, again, this is probably not due to quality, but just probably to nostalgia and the number of times I've watched it. This is in my top 10 movies. No, I won't say of all time, but, like, favorite movies. It's in there.
You know, it's funny. I really can see that if I'd watched this as a kid, I may have a lot more fondness for it. But
Yeah.
as it is, I think it's just a fine, forgettable, dumb little, comedy. This is what it is.
Yeah.
So I have not much more to add. I don't think I'm shocked that this was a shorter review by our standards because it's
No.
Comedies don't tend to have as much meat in the bone to kind of dissect. But but yeah. So I guess we'll rate the movie then. What would you give it, Matt?
So mine, because I'm so close to this is a 9 for me. It's in my top 10 favorite movies, But I understand all its flaws, and I understand people aren't going to rate it nearly as high as I will, unless you're my brother who also grew up watching this.
For me, it's probably like a 6.
That's fair.
It's a fine movie, but I think if the characters. I think if the characters themselves were more witty, because they're very, because of the airhead humor, where it's just like them kind of reacting to things. I think if they were a bit more witty, if the script was just a bit more biting in what it was doing, like I feel like this is a movie that's like primed. Like this could actually be a really good satire. Like the whole thing with having all these historical figures react to what the world's like. There's a lot of good social commentary you could have with that, but it doesn't really do anything with it. It's just kind of here's some jokes about.
No, it's just. You definitely tell this was when they made movies for kids. Like, this was a movie that was dropped in the summer for, like, teenagers and kids to go see, get them out of the parents' hair in the 80s and whatnot. So, like, I feel like if it was made now, like, Netflix or someone could do, like, a miniseries or whatever with it. Like you said, with, like, the historical figures and actually have, like, something to say. But for its time, I think it's fine.
There you go. That's where's my. Oh, actually, that was an accident. That was an accident.
Yeah.
That one.
No, that's a movie I also like, but that's something I would never bring to Overload because it's not that great of a movie. Dude, Where's My Car? It's funny and I laugh. But, yeah, but it's nowhere near this. Like,
yeah. I mean, I don't think there's a giant leap between them, but I mean, I know a lot of people will disagree with that.
Yeah, to me there is. There's a whole big step.
Now, to be fair, I could be misremembering how bad that is because I've not seen it since I've seen it maybe once or twice when it came out or just after it came out.
Yeah, there are parts that still make me laugh just because that's my sense of humor. But I watched part of it on TV a couple months ago. It's bad. Like even.
I think the comparison. The reason why I make that comparison is because they're both they're airheads, kind of like Bill and Ted. They've got a very similar kind of dude. Like that's just the 10 years later version of Bill and Ted's characters essentially.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. I do remember one joke that I liked. There's one joke from that movie I remember liking. It's when they meet the weird alien cult, right? And they're like, okay, so who's everyone in this van? And it's like, oh, I'm Zathra, I'm Zoltan, I'm Zigra, I'm Zaton. And then it gets to the last guy, he's like, I'm Jeff.
Yeah.
that was just a good setup, is what can I say.
Yeah.
That's all I remember about Bill and Ted, other than the stupid tattoo scene and the giant woman at the end. That's all I remember from Dude, Where's My Car? I said Bill and Ted there a minute ago.
The other joke in that one
is what I'm saying.
The other joke in that one, just because it became a joke with me and my best friend, is when they call the ostriches llamas. So anytime we would go to a zoo or see ostriches, he'd be like, check out those llamas, So, but again, it's not that funny, but it's funny to me.
What I think's missing from Bill and Ted is probably like, I'm not saying I want like a big serious threat that's happening, but I don't know if just getting back in time for the history exam is enough of a driving force. Like,
yeah.
Because when they're actually collecting the historical figures, at one point, you know, Bill says to Ted, "Hey, how much time we got?" And he's like, "Tons." And I'm like, "Okay, so there's no urgency then. We're just kind of."
Well, no, because he forgot to set his watch. He forgot to wind his watch.
Yes, that's true. Yes, that's a plot point.
Teacher told him to. Yeah. So, you know, and then that's what adds to the craziness.
When the ship first gets damaged, I thought, okay, the plot of this movie now is going to be the struggle to get back to the present because the ship's damaged, so they're going to have to try and fix it. But that's like a couple of scenes. It's not like a big thing.
Yeah. No.
So
yeah. No, I know what you're saying. Yeah, just wait till the second one, because there's a big looming threat in the second one. But yeah, so. But right. I won't put it up so close to this one. Well, we'll see. We'll see what's going on.
Let me yawn.
Yeah, I'll get you on. So
pretty too busy this weekend. That's what it is. But yeah, that's been Overload. So it's a quieter one. But we got Coherence coming up next time later this month. I promise you. There'll be discussion on that. That is a movie about alternate realities bleeding into one another, and it is good fun.
Oh boy.
Yes.
There's multiverse theory in play, huh?
Oh, there's going to be multiversing, Matt. Is
there a Speed Force?
No Speed Force, but
crap.
It's a movie about clues.
Okay.
I think you're going to like it. I think you're going to like it. It's a low-budget sci-fi movie. I think you're going to be into it. But that's what's coming up next time. And like we say, right now it's Say Anything versus Bubba Hotep. So go and vote for Bubba Hotep if you're a patron. And
or vote for Say Anything. But either way, I'm just going to say this. I'll be fine because I've never seen Bubba Hotep. I've only heard of Bubba Hotep. And yeah. Sounds like something I would enjoy.
It's Bruce Campbell playing Elvis, who teams up with JFK, who's played by Ozzie Davis, a black man, in a retirement home because an evil mummy is attacking the residents, and they have to fight it off. If that doesn't sound amazing to you, then I don't know what does. Come on now.
Yeah.
And it's got a heart. It's got an excellent heart to it as well. So. Go vote for it. Anyway, so that is Overload. Let us know what you thought of Bill and Ted in the comments below. Like and subscribe, all that stuff. Get us on patreon.com/MailFuzzTV. You can support us over there, and you get to vote, as in the aforementioned vote, with the Overload stuff. You also get to vote on Influx episodes and Streams After Midnight episodes. There's a bunch of other stuff there as well. You can also get us on Twitter at mailed_fuzz for channel updates. You can get me on Twitter at Wibble89. You can get Matt on Twitter at MattofSteel57. Otherwise, that is us, though. So thank you very much once again for watching or listening. We always appreciate it. Keep watching movies, guys, and we'll see you next time.